Welcome to Weight Loss and Wellness for Real, the podcast where people like you get the practical solutions and support you need to permanently lose the physical and mental weight so you can feel better and live the life you really want to live in the body and mind you really want to be living in. If you're looking to overcome your stress eating, overeating, binging behaviors, and move to a place of food and body freedom, as well as find more meaning and more moments of joy in life, you are in the right place. Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here today, for tuning in and listening. I have a very special guest on the podcast today. His name is Matt Dolan, and he owns the gym Forge Strength along with his wife, Stephanie, and he is a trainer there, and he's going to talk to us today all about strength training as we get older, the importance of it, how to do it, how to get started, how to not be afraid of it. I really believe after listening to this episode, if you are maybe 35 and above and have never done any strength training, that this will inspire you to give it a go. I am really on a mission to really push people my age and older and even a little younger, but to get into strength training. I just really believe in the benefits that it gives us as we age to our physical bodies, but as well as how it makes us feel mentally and emotionally. I think strength training can really optimize so many aspects of our lives and keep us living in that functional body for as long as possible so we can live our best lives in our best bodies possible. Before we get into the interview, just a couple of housekeeping things. A reminder, you can head to my website at heatherheynen.com. Heynen is spelled Heynen, heatherheynen.com. And from there, you can sign up for my free monthly newsletter. And that is always on a topic about well-being. And I also include a high protein recipe as well as links to any discount codes to products that partner with this podcast. So head to my website. Oh, and from there too, you can get to things like my online courses that I offer on stopping overeating, binge eating for good. I've gotten lots of great feedback on that. So those of you who have taken the course and who have gotten in touch with me, I really appreciate that to know that it has been helping so many people. Okay, here we go. On to the interview.
How about you?
I'm doing good. You're in the middle of work.
That's all I do. So like this just works out really well. Yeah, so I'm here.
Good
like
job.
The sound and everything okay on your side?
Yeah, you should be fine. I mean, yeah, it's looking fine.
Okay.
We're good.
It's kind of funny because after 2020, with all the Zooming and everything after 2020, I was so sick of it that I lost the app. I quit doing it, and I haven't been back online doing anything like this since 2020.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I just refused to. It was that stressful for me that I've absolutely refused to do it since.
So is that because you were training online?
The training online was part of it. Like it was kind of funny before 2020. Like trainers never talked to each other, and then in 2020, so many people got kind of shut in and shut out of their gyms. Like, who do I talk to? Well, trainers are going to talk to other trainers.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden you end up with all these trainers talking to each other, and everybody's doing certs and courses and classes, podcasts. So you spend so much time like on screen and online that that was the constant in 2020.
Remember when I talked to you online? Was that like 2020? Was that time?
That was 2020. I think that was like late summer of 2020.
Yeah, because I think it was when you were kind of doing a lot of that stuff of like,
I think it was.
Okay, where do I go with a gym right now during COVID?
People were freaking out. Like, people like some people afraid to leave their houses. Other people, because of South Dakota, other people like had no problem like being in public.
Yeah.
So it was like we were all over the board and just trying to navigate it was a mess. And so that would have been, I think it was late summer 2020 that we had you on. Yeah.
Yeah, that would make sense for sure. Well, can you talk a little bit just about, I'll do a little introduction, or I should say the listener, because I'm not going to edit too much of this, but the listeners will have heard a little introduction about you and just the gym and stuff. Topic that I kind of sent over to you, I'd like to focus on older people getting into strength training. I think I turned 50. So now I'm, and you're there too.
How is that
you too.
Right? But how did that, like, how old do you feel?
I know.
Like, if you didn't know, how old would you say you are if you didn't know?
28, maybe 30. Yeah. How about you?
Somebody asked me that the other day, and like without a doubt, I said 33. Like
Yeah,
without
there
it,
you
like
go.
no hesitation. Like boom,
I
33.
know.
So when
Yeah,
I
which is
say 50
great.
out loud, yeah, 100%. But I say 50 out loud, and like I have to do the math on it sometimes, like
It's
because I'm like that
bizarre.
can't possibly be right. It can't
Yeah,
possibly be.
and do you feel, I felt like 50, it must just be the decade number or whatever, but way different than, and I've always enjoyed getting older, so that was all fine and good, but it was really different than when I turned 48 or 49. Like it really was 50 that.
It's a real number. Like it's a real
Yeah,
number,
it's a
and it
real, there
carries
you go. Yeah.
all the connotations of getting older and aging. And like I work with so many kids, right?
Yeah.
And like like my age seldom comes up unless it's a like how old are you? Like usually it's
I
in
bet.
like regards to like music or language, and
Yep.
they speak gibberish. I don't understand anything they say.
Exactly.
But
Yes,
they're like, how
yes.
old are you? And I'm like, well, how old do you think I am? They're like, I don't know, I'm like 37, 38. I'm like, I'm 50. And they're just like, oh my God.
Yeah,
Like I'm
so
about to
old.
erupt into ash in front of them.
Right. Well, it is halfway to 100, so it does
Sure, but
feel.
only halfway,
That's right.
right?
That's a good
Only
point.
halfway.
Yes, very true. So maybe let the listeners know a little bit just about you and your gym and your history and what you do.
Okay. Like right now?
Yeah, right now I'm
You,
recording right now.
okay, so we're recording?
This will probably be included. This is just my style, conversation, whatever. I don't do a ton of editing.
That works better for me because if I start thinking too much, I'm just going to sit here and end up staring at the camera.
Yes, exactly. Don't think too much.
My name is Matt Dolan. I live in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. I'm the owner of Forged Strength in Sioux Falls. My wife and I, Stephanie. Forged has been here for 10 years. We opened in 2014.
That's amazing.
I've been a full-time trainer for almost 15 years now. And like one of the things that we're most proud of here is we're literally ages 8 to 84,
so cool.
85 right now. So we touch a lot of bases.
Yeah.
And that's the fun part about it. Like that's the buffet of humanity that we get to work with. So it keeps me on my toes, keeps us fresh, constantly keeps us innovating and trying new things. And the best part about it is we get to see people get wins in what they're doing. And like whether it's somebody who's 8 or 80, they get that win. It's really, really exciting for us.
Yeah, that is so cool. And the listeners should know, I sent my mother to you.
Donna.
3. Yes, Donna.
Yes.
And she'll listen to this episode, I'm sure. So she'll be psyched. Well, I assume she'll be psyched. We're mentioning her
better
name.
be.
That's right. That's right. But I sent her to you. It was, I think, 2 or 3 years ago. That time goes so fast. But
I think it was right after COVID. Yeah.
Yeah. And just so the listeners know, I mean, that's how much I really appreciate what you guys do at that gym. It is pretty amazing. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, and
I trusted you with my mama.
I mean, and that's the baseline, right? Like, how good are you? Well, do you trust me with your mom?
That's right.
Because if you send somebody that you care about to us, like we take that very, very seriously.
Yeah. You guys did such a great job with her.
The highest compliment that we can get. The best thing about your mom being in here, she wasn't the oldest person here when she was here. Right. She'd be in here with Dr. Looney, who was
she told me about
15 years
that.
older. And Dr. Looney actually just left right before I got on here.
That is
and
so cool.
Like Dr. Looney was happy to have another kid around when your mom was in here. So I was like, all right, yeah, we're doing it all right.
Awesome. Yeah, for sure. So I do know, like you said, you work with a lot of kids. I know that. I mean, I follow all your stuff, so I see all that. But if we kind of move into how you do work with older adults or whatever within the strength training realm, like what is the major difference between when you're working with younger people versus maybe, and when I'm saying older adults, I guess what I was going to say earlier, I turned 50 and I kind of got a little bit on this mission of like, oh, I really want to push older adults, I'm going to say 40s and beyond, into strength training because I believe in it so much. And I think and now I'm going off on a tangent, but I hear a lot of people, 40s and beyond, who are working out or trying to get exercise in, but they're doing things like walking, which is great. Or they're doing things like, they're running because they were a runner, which is also great. But I really feel we miss out as pushing older adults into strength training. So back to my question, how do you kind of, what do you do differently? Younger person versus older person?
So I like to think we have a lot more in common with our different demographics than we do differently. What we want to do with anybody that comes through the door, we want to figure out where they're at. So there's a lot of conversation, there's a lot of talking. What have you been doing? What haven't you been doing?
Right.
There's your age, your calendar age, but then there's your training age too. What have you been doing? How often have you been doing it? What sort of progress have you had? What sort of damage have you had?
Yeah.
Like, just where are you at? Let's figure out where you're at. But whether we're training with a high school volleyball player or somebody in their 50s, 60s, 70s, older, we want to look at how do you move? How comfortably do you move? And a lot of that comes down to is what are you afraid of? Like, where's that fear factor at? Where's that red flag? Where is your brain telling you that, I shouldn't do this or I can't do this? Okay, once we get to that question, well, let's talk about why not. Why do you think you can't do that? What's the hang up? Is it a physical hang up? Is it a mental? Is it an emotional hang up? Is it a traumatic? You had an injury, you had a bad experience. Like, let's talk about why you think you can't do that. And then let's try to find a way that we can start to chip away at those things. Let's figure out what you do really well first. And that's what we do with everybody that walks through our door. We want to figure out what you do really, really well. And training went through a period where a lot of trainers and coaches were giving these assessments to try to red light what you don't do well. You can't do this, you can't do that. And they were giving you this whole list of things that you can't do. You don't move well. Your ankles are too tight. Your low back is this. Your knees are that. Your shoulders are blah, 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 blah. And they were telling you how broken you were. Well, let's start at the other end of that. Let's figure out what you can do, right? And let's make hay on that. Let's rock on what you can do. And once we figure out what you can do, we're going to do that as much as we can. But let's find some areas of opportunity where you can maybe get a little bit better. Okay, yeah, you got a little bit of a wonky back. Why do you have a wonky back? Right? Is it keeping you from doing things? Is it something that just pops up randomly? Is it kind of a roadblock to what you want to do? You've got your 3 or 4 hours a week in the gym. Is this a roadblock to what you want to do the rest of the week outside of the gym? So let's start to chip away at that. And the big thing that we're looking for with anybody is let's get you in. Let's find a way for you to relax. Yeah. Okay, and get you chipping away at little things. Let's just start where you're at, and we'll go with little baby steps. If this is going to be a life journey, and it is, wherever you're at right now, you still got the rest of it ahead of you. Yeah, let's figure out what we can do where we can start to chip away. And once we start to chip away, we get a little momentum, and momentum tends to rule everything. So once you get that momentum rolling, everything becomes easier.
Yeah. Oh, I love that so much. And I'm assuming then when you talk about that fear factor, or that little mindset stop that a lot of people have, I'm assuming you do see that a lot more often in older people coming in versus, I mean, because kids are just like, whatever.
So it's crazy. The kids, like, the best part about training kids is they can make us look really good just because they don't have all these preconceived notions, right? Yeah. They have no idea what they shouldn't be doing. They'll do anything we tell them to do. Yeah. When people get a little bit older, they've got a combination of lessons learned the hard way. They've got we rag on kids all the time for their addiction to social media. Like a lot of older people have had, if not like your TikTok level of social media addiction, they've been reading the wrong articles, the wrong books, watching the wrong TV shows. Like they saw too many of the, who was it that had the Thigh Master? Is that Suzanne Summers that had the Thigh Master?
Totally,
right?
Totally, yeah.
And just the bad information. I need to be doing more running. I need to be doing more of this, more of this. Like, less of that, less of that. So we have a lot of conversations there. It's like, okay, well, why do you think this? And it's not, for the most part, a lot of fact-based or experience-based that they have. It's a lot of, well, I heard, I thought, I have this preconceived notion what they should and shouldn't be doing. So let's start to talk about those things and lay it out why this might be a better route to take or a different route to take, where you can start to maybe change some things that you're doing and start to see some better health, some better fitness, and more confidence in the way that your body's moving. And when you start to have that confidence, you're willing to try more things. And once we get to that point where we're willing to try more things, we go back to that kind of, 16, 17, 18-year-old, where now all of a sudden everything's back on the table again. And once we can put more on the table, we have more to choose from, and we make more progress that way.
Yeah, no, that makes so much sense. Do you, so I guess that was one of the questions I was going to ask too, like common misconceptions around strength training. Do you see it a lot? I get this big one with women, usually it's women, typically in their 40s, 50s, like, and I'm trying to encourage them to do some strength training. And I get the one a lot of like, well, I don't want to get big. I don't want to get bulky. Yeah. Do you hear that a lot
all the
too?
Time.
It's not
all
just
the
me.
Time.
Yeah.
No, it's not just you. It's all the time. I'm going to get big. I'm going to get bulky. I'm going to get stiff. Yeah. And like we have we've got a couple girls in the gym. My wife Stephanie is a great example of it. Stephanie
She's
has been
amazing.
training. She's been training nonstop for 20 years, probably nonstop. And that's through her pregnancy. And, after Ronan was born. And we have had women be like, she looks great. I just don't want to be that big.
Oh,
and it's like, oh, like, here's the thing. Like, you're not going to be like, and it's like you run the risk of jumping in a pool and becoming an Olympic swimmer, right? It just doesn't happen like that.
Yes.
So we really do like have to walk that back to, ground zero and be like, okay, you have this preconceived notion. It's incorrect. The strength training will make you stronger, more flexible, more mobile, more stable. It'll improve your balance. It'll give you more confidence. But then we have to look at your nutrition. Now let's start to talk about what you eat. This is the bigger and the smaller of it is the nutrition. We'll start to talk about your cardio, your conditioning. There's a lot of ingredients that go into that. And all of a sudden showing up and lifting weights a couple hours a week, it does not translate into that other thing. And we've got some guys in the gym who, like, every time they hear the story, they get, almost this outrage. They're like, I try so hard to be big and it just doesn't work. Like, he's like, I'm trying so hard to be huge and it just doesn't work. It doesn't, it's really hard. It doesn't happen by accident and it doesn't happen overnight. Weight loss or weight gain in any fashion doesn't happen overnight. But again, it's that, and I don't know if that's an 80s thing.
I know I'm always wondering that same thing.
Yeah. Everything happened in the 80s. Everything bad happened in the 80s.
Yes. Yeah. I know, it is interesting. I mean, because it is sort of like, where does that come from? I don't know.
I don't know. And like we see enough on social media. Like social media is your highlight reel, right? And like, so I don't know if people of a certain age, once they start to, what you find on social media tends to be what you seek out, right? And so information starts to kind of self-perpetuate that way. You become kind of, you almost get stuck in the vacuum.
Very true.
And you're in the spin cycle where you're just getting bombarded with the same information. It doesn't make it better information just because you're seeing it more often. It just starts to hammer you more. But that's a conversation with a lot of women. They're convinced they need to be doing more cardio. They want to start limiting their calories. They want to start, looking at different diets, different, nutrition plans, and start to put labels on what they're eating. Oh, well, I'm, doing this diet or that diet. So it's okay that I'm under eating and I'm trying to lose weight because I don't want to get bigger. And
that's actually, that's a really good point though. I haven't thought about that. It is sort of that, that psychological piece where if I can say I'm on a specific diet, then it's okay. I'm under eating.
Anyway, and we used to, like, we started seeing this, like, as fitness has become more and more part of the mainstream, the cultural mainstream. I really started to notice it, 8, 9, 10 years ago when we were working with women that were going into physique competitions, bodybuilding shows, things like that. And I started to realize really quickly, a lot of people were taking their disordered eating and putting it under this banner of, oh, I'm training for a show. That's why I'm cutting this out of my diet. This is why I'm only eating this many calories. This is why I'm doing so much cardio. It's because I'm a competitor. And the reality of the situation is, no, you were trying to put a label on something that was far, far heavier than just doing a competition where you were going to look a certain way for a few hours on a stage. And the rest of your life was going to be wound up around this nutrition and this exercise. And we still see it. We just see it in different things. And we see it's not just women. And I don't want to come across as if we're picking on women, because our gym is, I think we're 70% female in here, which is bonkers to me. But I mean, I'm so super proud of it. It's just bananas that we have that many women here. But we do see it in men as well. It's just, I think, a little more prevalent in women because there's more masks that they can put on it that seem to be a little bit more culturally acceptable.
Right. No, that makes perfect sense. So do you still do some training, like for like on stage competing and things like that? Like, will you go through that with people if they want to do that?
If they want to do it, we would have to have some real hard and fast conversations about it. I do not care for it.
Okay, so you do you hesitate with it a little
I
bit.
do. And I do like to think that there are ways that we can help somebody go through it in a healthy manner, or the healthiest manner possible. But I really will, I'll hate to say try to talk somebody out of it, but I will 100% try to talk them out of it.
Yes, just, tell us why. Tell us why.
It just feeds the monster, right?
Yeah.
And I've never worked with anybody who comes through a show and at that point is just like willing to take everything that they did to go through a show and set it aside and move on with their life. It becomes this constant chasing of, oh, I'm going to put up a picture of what I look like on stage. Like, I missed that. I missed this. You look like that for a couple hours on a given day that had months of building up to that. We work with some fighters who weight cut, weight class, manage sports.
For their sport,
and, it's the same thing. Like, we need to manage weight, we need to manage muscle mass, we need to manage nutrition, things like that, as opposed to picking a day and trying to look a certain way and feel a certain way at a certain time. Because anybody who's honest, whether it's a fighter or a competitor, even people that like run marathons or things like that, they will, in their real honest moments, they'll tell you, like, when we get a fighter that steps on stage at a certain weight, I think like Stephanie, when she fought, would cut 30 or 35 pounds to fight. Devin Clark, when Devin fights, he cuts 40 pounds to fight. But they will tell you when they weigh in, they feel awful. They feel absolutely awful. And you don't want to carry that picture you've got in your head of what you should look like into the rest of your life, because it's going to wreck how you feel about everything. So we want to find something that's manageable, something that's sustainable, something that people can come into the gym every day, or they can do at home or outside, something they can do every day where they're going to get more out of training than is going to take away from them, right? You want to make the deposit, you want to do the investment, and you want to get the payoff back.
Yeah. Such a really great philosophy to hold as a gym owner and trainer, because I think there's a lot of, like I was co-owner with a CrossFit gym for a while. So I was a little bit in your realm. I did some personal training for a while. And I think I think that's great. You can do that, because being in contact with a lot of different gyms and trainers during kind of that time when I was doing that, there can be a little bit of a, as a trainer, like, it can be an ego boost a little bit to be able to train some of those people, and they're on stage and they're winning and all that kind of thing. I mean, it can be a hard one to hold back from. So kudos to you, because that's not easy.
And it's what's really helped me with it is I haven't had to, from a business standpoint or professional standpoint, I haven't had to delve into that. I've been fortunate enough where I've been able to work with some people who were chasing performance instead of a stage presence,
which
right?
Is so great. Yeah.
And like, when you start to see the performance, the day to day, you start to see people getting better, feeling better, getting that confidence that we talked about, building that confidence instead of chipping away at it. When you start to build that confidence, people come to the gym excited. Like, they come in and they're like, cool. Like, I really, really want to train today. Or if it's not that great energy when they come in, if they can just get out of their car and get in and make it this far, like, once you walk in the door, you're going to have a better day, right? If we can just get you in the door, you're going to be glad you came today. And it's you hear the cliche all the time, like, you're never going to regret a training session, but that's the reality of it. Is I have yet to have somebody on their way out be like, you know what, this sucked. I really wish I wouldn't have done this today. I made a huge mistake. You never hear that.
Yeah.
So the fact that we get so many people like, man, I did not want to see you this morning. I was like, I don't want to see you either. I don't want to get up any more than you do. But we all get here, and you start to show up for your people show up for you. They do something that they know is good for them, and they walk out feeling better. And then they tell their friends about it. They tell their families about it, tell their mom about it. Right. Exactly. And that's where, like, okay, that's the realm that I've been fortunate enough to fall into with what I do.
I think that's that's great. Makes it definitely, sounds like it gives back a lot.
It does. Oh, 100%. 100%. Like, I'm a highly emotional creature. And if I wasn't constantly getting greatness back out of this, I would have found something else.
Be doing it.
And I anybody that knows me knows that I am a night owl. I am not a morning person. And like, I come in the morning, and we've got kind of this unspoken agreement with people in the morning. They see me in the morning, I see them in the morning. We don't directly address each other. Like, we're going to give each other a few minutes to kind of, we're going to warm up to our presence, and then we might start talking down the road. But in the morning, we're all just kind of feeling it out. We're all here. We all, we're going to be glad we're here. We're not glad just yet. We're going to be glad. but let's give it a little bit of moment to kind of warm up, and then we're good. But again, it's always worth it. I never come to work and I'm like, man, that sucked. I really wish I wouldn't have gone today.
No, that's so great. Great to have a occupation like that where, I mean, it's purposeful, you know?
It is.
Sure.
It is.
Yeah.
And like once you start to build that culture, and again, when I say we've got 8 to 80 plus, like when we get people in the gym, we have everything like literally from 8 to 80 in the gym training side by side at the same time. Everybody does their own thing. Everybody's taking care of their own business, their own goals, their own training session. But when people start to interact like that, you start to get older people looking at younger people and being like, oh, I can still do some of the stuff that person is doing. And you see some of the younger people looking at the older people and being like, wow, I can do this forever. Like that's inspirational that she is doing this or that he's doing this, and like I can keep going. And we're building life skills, right? And when you start to get into that, okay, now we're giving people some keys to kind of live a better life. And that sounds like an overstatement, but I really don't believe it is.
Oh no, I don't think it's overstated at all. And I think that's part of, why I wanted to have you on and talk about this. And I did an interview a couple weeks ago with another specific climber trainer who's older, who's a bit, but we were talking about this same thing as well. It's just like, I just feel really strongly about being on this mission about getting older people to do some of the strength training stuff because of what you just said. It makes you feel good.
Do you find yourself getting more and more militant about it as you get older?
Like do you mean militant with other people? Like willing to be? Oh yeah, because now I'm 50, so I don't give it. I don't give an F. So
yeah. Oh, we know what you mean, Heather. We know what you mean.
So yes, I am definitely. I would say militant could be the word, more direct.
Sure.
Yeah. How about you?
Oh, absolutely. And I used to feel like I had to kind of soft sell people on it. Like, if you find time, if it works for you, da, 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 da. As I get older, as I get older,
you need to do this.
My son's 8 years old, right?
Yeah.
Like one of the oh shit moments for me was at his soccer practice a couple of years ago. I look at dads that can't play with their kids.
Yeah.
And like, oh my God, like how horrifying. Like it doesn't have to be that way, right? It doesn't have to be that way. And I'm not saying that we can completely change it by tomorrow, but it can change. And to be able to access all these different areas of your life, right? It's under your control. You can do things to access these different areas of your life and experience your life more, savor your life more. But you have to take some steps to do it. And the biggest holdup for most people is they don't know where to start. So if we can find a way to just get them started, right? Get that foot in the door. You can't kick down the door, but you can knock, and you can be polite, and you can ask, and you get that foot in the door, and like, okay, now I'm in the door. Now I can start to improve my life. I have better access to the things that make me happy and the life I want to live. And I have so much less chill about talking with that people now. Because it's a matter of do or do not. You have to decide you're going to make a change. And if you make that change, you're never going to regret doing it.
Yeah.
And I have far less chill on that now than I used to.
Yeah. A little more direct.
A little bit more direct.
So this is why I love a gym. Oh, I love your gym, but a gym like yours as well. It's a very, so for people who don't know, if you haven't been to Forge Strength or don't know about Forge Strength, it's very, what would you describe it as? It's a smaller, like, boutique, would you call it a boutique gym?
Man,
I don't know. It's probably
hate that
wrong
word.
to say.
No, it's accurate. I hate the word. No, we are a little boutique-y. I don't know if you can see behind me here. Right.
Yeah.
So,
nice.
we're an athletic training style gym, a performance-based gym. And when we opened, I thought it was going to be nothing but athletes all the time. Right. I thought there was going to be a line of athletes out the door waiting to train. That's generally not how it works. Like people who need you find you. Right? Not the people you want, the people who need you find you. And most of our adult population has found us after they've been injured, after they've had a surgery, after they've had some sort of,
that makes sense.
Oh shit moment in their life where they're just like, I need something to change and I don't know how to do it. Right. So there's always a little bit of this mea culpa moment where people are just like, I don't know what to do. And can you help me? And it's hard. It's hard to ask for help. And so anytime somebody sets foot in the door, we understand that that's their way of asking for help. And like, we can
it's a
help
vulnerable moment.
It's so vulnerable. It is so vulnerable. A high school or a college athlete coming in, like, okay, we know that you want help too, but it's different, right? You're already able, you're already capable. We're just helping keep you healthy and kind of refine those abilities a little bit. Whereas with the adult population, and as people get older, it gets a little bit harder to find that starting point. But we're helping you find that starting point so you can take those first steps. And it gets, again, we talk about that momentum. You can get that momentum moving a little bit where you are starting to take care of yourself. And it's not me doing it. It's not Steph or Gabe or Jamie or anybody else that works here. Like, you have to do the thing. We can give you the roadmap, but you have to take the steps to do it.
Yeah.
And once we get people in the door and they start to go through that first session, okay, we relax, we take that deep breath. Okay, I think I can do this.
And start building that confidence like you're talking about.
And then we've got the win, right? Once we start getting a little bit of that confidence, then we've got to win.
Yeah. Well, and I do think the style of gym that you run and that you train at, and, obviously people listening, if they're in Sioux Falls, I would just recommend they go to your gym. But if they're not, there are your style gyms almost anywhere.
Yep.
And I do think for anyone who's brand new, older, and is listening to this and is like, yeah, I think I want to do this. I want to try some strength training. A gym like yours would be the perfect place to go because you do get that one-on-one, but it's like that community that then there's something special about it being in community within a gym when you're learning this stuff. I think as an older person.
I mean, we're really tribal creatures, right? I mean, at the end of the day, we're very tribal creatures, and we like to have those conversations with people who want to talk about the same things, who have maybe differing opinions about the same things. Like, this gym is built around, we're training, but we're probably talking about music. We're probably talking about different movies. We're probably talking about different books. We're probably talking about different things that are going on in the world. We're talking about people making career changes or school choices and things like that. But it becomes this group think. Kind of built around the fitness and exercise aspect of things. And again, that helps people relax. And I think once they start to relax, we talk about all these different things. And if we can make their fitness and their strength training a little part of it, it makes it a lot easier for them to incorporate it into their bigger lifestyle culture. And they start to see the fitness as a part of, as opposed to something that exists outside their lifestyle. It exists as part of, if not a key part of, how they live their life. And once you start to identify it as not something that you need to do, but something you get to do and something that you want to do going forward, it becomes much, much easier to make it a constant in what you do.
Well, and I think then it can become part of your identity a little bit. So it just makes it way more easy and effortless to plug in. I think too, a gym like yours, what it does, it really creates a psychological state of safety for people. And so to your point, how they relax is because they feel safe, they feel included. I mean, we are all tribal creatures and we want to feel safe. So once we're safe, we can make those changes.
And you're in a situation like this, at a gym like this, you're going to be surrounded by people on your day one or your year one or your year 5, whatever it is. There's always going to be somebody else in the gym who's been exactly where you're at right now. Right. And that's one of my favorite things. And like, for me, it makes my job really easy when we've got somebody in here who's nervous, who's working hard, who's not sure. Or, after their first or second session, when they come in and they've got that first time soreness and they're like, oh man, there's always somebody else who's like, yeah, I remember that. Like, that was me 6 months ago. That was me a year ago. That was me 5 years ago. Like, I totally get it. It gets better. Good for you for showing up. Good for you for coming back. Like, and it gets better. You're never going to regret it. So the people themselves become, kind of these proxy coaches and proxy trainers. You make my job easier. I don't have to tell them these things. They're kind of, just via osmosis picking up on like, oh yeah, we are in this together. Like, this is a cultural thing. We will do this. You are going to do the work, but we are going to take part in it. And people do take ownership of new people. We have people in the gym who very much like take ownership. Like, that guy's me. That guy's me 5 years ago. And like, he can't quit. He needs this. She needs to do this. And once other people start to get involved in it, it's just like, oh, this is beautiful. Like, you have bought into taking care of yourself and doing things you need to do for you. And once you start to see that buy-in in people, it's just an amazing thing to see. It's beautiful to me.
It is. It really does change people's lives, truly. So general sense, what would you say, for the older adult, maybe thinking of getting into like, why would they do it? Like for you, as a trainer, what do you see as some of the biggest benefits for someone older, literally just starting, if they've never done anything before, starting it up?
So I think the biggest reason to do it is, especially if you haven't done it before, you've probably been neglecting some very important things about yourself for years, right? It's very easy. Like we get away with so many things in our 20s just because we're in our 20s, right?
Yeah.
And we've got time and we've got enough money and, we can try different things and almost everything works for you in your 20s. You start to get a little bit older, career, family, children, obligation, yada, yada. Oh shit, I'm 50. What happened? Like I haven't done anything for myself in 25 years. Like what happened? Well, you're at halftime. You still got the whole other half, right? And what do you want that to look like? And it's terrifying if you just focus on, I haven't been doing anything. It's exciting if you start to look at, but now I can. And I can start to change the way the next 50 years looks like. And like, okay, now I start to get a little bit excited about like, oh, I can change it. And so I highly recommend like anybody who hasn't done any sort of focused strength training, interview some coaches, talk to some coaches, and then don't take their word for it. Talk to the people that they work with, right? You should be interviewing people here. This is an important position that you're going to be hiring for.
Absolutely.
And talk to some people, get a good feel for what people do, how they do it, your comfort level with them. I say this a lot, like fitness and training is kind of like dating, right? You want to do fun things with people that make you laugh. Find things that you like with people that make you laugh, help you relax, and you're going to be able to make that a constant. How hard you work and where you go with it at the end of the day is going to be up to you, but getting comfortable with it is going to help you make that progress. And if you want to play with your kids, you want to play with your grandkids, you want to take those trips, right? You want to, mountain bike, you want to rock climb, you want to, hike Europe, right? Yeah. You want to do the Grand Canyon. Like, okay, let's address how we can do that, because if we want to do those things, let's squeeze all the juice out of that fruit, right?
Yeah,
so give yourself access to those things. And once you start to give yourself access to it, it does become a little bit addicting. It's like, man, that was great. That was great.
Definitely.
I want to do more of this. I want to keep living this life. And once you start to get into it, people of a certain age, like we get to an age that, man, I don't have any hobbies. I don't have this. I don't have that. Well, do you not have them because you don't have interest in them, or because you feel like you can't do them?
Right. And which I think is,
like if you're not doing things because you feel like you can't do them, why can't you do them? Let's change that.
Yeah.
Because if you're at halftime right now, win that second half. You're going to be really, really glad that you did.
Yeah. No regrets at all.
No regrets. Let's go.
Yeah. What about, let's switch topics just a little bit here. What about so someone who's getting into strength training, or who is into strength training, do you recommend specific nutritional strategies or anything like that can be really helpful?
Nutrition. So nutrition is like just this bag of cats, right?
It's a bag of cats.
We go back and forth all the time. Like we can draw out on paper this perfect nutrition plan for somebody, and they'll get into it like a week, and then they'll see an ad for something, or somebody will try to sell them a supplement, and they'll just bail on it. They'll take this thing that's been working, and they'll just bail on it. So nutrition is one of those things where, like, it is something that you constantly have to come back and tend your garden. You constantly have to come back to it. Because there is no set nutrition. There is fluid nutrition based on where you're at with your training, where you're at with your lifestyle, where you're at with your stress, where you're at with your time. Like being a parent, there's what I eat, and there's what my son that day is willing or able to eat, or refusing to eat, right? Those become their own challenges and their own issues. So nutrition is one of those things. We want to start first with anybody. The only two things that I stress with nutrition that are constants, there's only two things you can control: the quality of the food that you take in, and the quantity of the food that you take in, right? And so we want to talk about, what are you getting? Where's your protein at? And then carbs and fat kind of fall in after that. But we want to build every meal around a protein source. And for most people,
so we're on the same page with that. Protein.
And most people, I'm looking for like 0.7 to 0.8 grams per pound of body weight in protein, right? And that's a huge challenge for most people. Most people they think they get enough. Oh, I get enough. I get plenty.
And they're getting like 30 grams a day when you break down what they're eating. That is so common. Yeah.
It's bananas, and people are convinced they get enough, and then we ask them to write it down. Like, just write down everything you eat for the next 3 days. Like, don't fudge, don't lie, don't try to impress me. Just write down everything, and then we're just going to sit down and talk about it. And we sit down and look at it. We start to do the math on it. I'm like, okay, you're a 220-pound guy. You're getting less than 50 grams of protein a day. Or, you're a 140-pound woman. You're getting less than 30 grams of protein a day. Yeah. We need to start to build around this protein. So what are things that you can eat? What are things that you like to eat? And let's start to focus on those things. And once we start to build around that protein, carbs and fat start to fall in line to a certain extent.
I agree.
Right?
Yep. Yeah.
And so we don't need to focus so much on the carbs and fat if we're getting enough protein. So we pick one thing, right? And if we can focus on that one thing, that makes everything else easier for people. So we try to simplify by going with the protein. We also try to simplify. Eating for us is a very it's become beyond social, right? It's almost like this quasi-religious event that we go through, right? And it's such the sanctity of dining, and we build family events around it, we build social events around it. Like talking to people like Gabe, one of the coaches that works here, is from California. He wasn't familiar with the Lutheran funeral food. And he's like, you all eat at funerals? Like, yeah.
The buns with ham and butter.
Sandwiches, right? And like, so it becomes this massive event that like people very easily lose track of what they are and are not eating. So let's focus on what you're getting, what you're not getting. Let's try to get a little bit more of what you need. And with most people, that's protein. And then like we start to build around that, and then we can tweak the rest of the stuff. But if we can take away, like, you don't need an elaborate meal all the time. Like I eat the same thing every day for lunch. I've had the same thing for lunch. Like for 5 years, I've had the same thing.
Yep.
That's just brain, bandwidth that I don't need to waste thinking
about food. Decision fatigue, right?
It's like, awful, right?
Yeah. So if you can't eat the same thing, it's brilliant, I think.
Yeah. You get tired of the food, change your spices. Get a new hot sauce, get a new salsa, and like start to worry about that stuff. It makes everything else so much easier when you don't have that decision fatigue. And then once you start to, I'm going to narrow down what I'm getting. I'm going to get a better quality of food. I'm going to make sure I'm getting the right quantity of that quality food. Yeah. Then we start to see over time, when the habit starts to kind of cement themselves, the consistency cements itself. Then you start to see the sustainable longer term change, starting to add muscle. The body fat starts to come down. The body recomposition starts to happen. You start to move better. Start to feel better, and then you'll see all the differences in things like up to like thyroid issues, diabetes, sleep apnea, yada yada yada, on and on down the line. Everybody's a little bit different with how the change in that body recomposition and the change in the nutrition can affect them, but it does affect you. We are products of what we eat, not just how we train, but of what we eat as well, and we're not immune from it. So it's something to be mindful from, but that mindfulness is an always forever thing. It's
it becomes way more effortless and just ingrained in the habit of how you're doing it. Yeah.
Like one of my favorite things is when somebody like, hey, how much water do you drink? I drink a lot of water. Well, how much do you drink? Like, really, how much do you drink? I had a cup this morning. Okay, that was 8 hours ago. You had a cup, right? So let's start talking about drinking some water and hydrating. And then when somebody shows up with their water bottle, I was like, oh man, they bought a water bottle. Like now, they're hooked to that thing. And once it's something as simple as that, like that's a huge win, right? You chalk that off at the end of the day, like, man, I got a gallon of water today. I got that win, right? Regardless of what else happened that day, man, I got my win, and you feel really, really good about it.
Yeah, and celebrate it. That's good.
100%.
You made a point too with the nutrition that I appreciated, where it's like you may, and I know you and I have really similar philosophies on this, where you make those little changes, like little daily doable changes. So it does take a little time. Like you were talking about, it does take a little time before you see that body recomp, before you see, and that's normal, and that's okay. And that's sustainable.
And it's not, going to be linear. Right. And that's the,
so true.
I throw out a lot of things like, you walk 10 miles into the forest, you got to walk 10 miles out. Right. And that to people is like, yeah, but I don't want to walk the 10 miles out. I just want to get like 2 miles out. Well, you're still in the forest. You got to go. But like little things I'm gonna do A, B, and C, and I'm gonna do this for 2 weeks. Boom, I came down 5 pounds. I made it to the gym 3 times a week. I came down 5 pounds. I'm on a roll. Next week, life happens, because it always does, right? It always does.
Always.
And I only got to the gym once, and the scale didn't move, or maybe went up a couple of pounds. So what? No big deal, right?
Exactly.
We're talking the blink of an eye right now, right? In the big scheme of the rest of your life. Let's see what happens over the next few weeks. And over the next few weeks, so came down 5 pounds over 2 weeks, and then jumped up a pound, and then nothing moved, and then came down 2 pounds. And it's this wave. But okay, let's start to check the boxes. Are you getting your protein? Are you getting your water? Are you getting to the gym? Are we setting manageable goals? Right? How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Are we getting our bites in? And you start to give people some really manageable boxes to check, and they can check boxes every day. And then you stack the days, and now all of a sudden it's a year later. And if you did this correctly over the course of a year, right? I'm only losing a pound a week. My brother, if you lose a pound a week, that is 50 pounds over a year. That's amazing. That is so amazing. But what is it? We tend to really overestimate what we do in the short term and undersell what we do in the long term.
What we do in the long term.
And hey, we're in this for the long term. We're in this for the long haul, right? So give yourself an opportunity to really accomplish some things. And it's going to be little things, but you have to acknowledge those little things. Let's celebrate those little things and put it into perspective. That's where people get so skewed by the highlight reel of social media sometimes, I think. You can lose 30 pounds in 30 days. Not sustainable. You can't. You might be able to, in some way, shape, or form, strip it off, but you're going to have it back on day 32. And
that's exactly it. And usually plus some.
Yes. And so anytime somebody tells me about some diet where I lost X amount of weight, X amount of time, then show me 5 days after that. Show me 10 days after that. Like, show me the habits that you built up. Don't tell me to trust the process. Show me your process. And because the success is going to be in your process. And if you can establish that process, that's where, over a month, over a year, over 5 years, over 10 years, like I did some things. Like I did some things for myself. I got some wins there. And that, again, it's just absolutely a beautiful thing to watch. And it's the best part of my job.
Oh, I bet it is. That is so cool. All those wins to watch for other people. It's very exciting. Tell me, and I'll let you go here in just a couple minutes, but can you tell us a little bit, like, what's your personal lifting routine? Like, how do you incorporate it? Like we've been talking about, you are 50, right? Or are you 51?
I'm 50.
Wait, when's your birthday?
May 30th.
Yes, I was going to say March, but
so I'm a few months from being 51, which is bananas, because I'm in better shape now than I was when I was 40.
And that's me too.
And it's not even close. Honestly, it's not even close. And a lot of that is just what I've done over the last few years is I've simplified a lot of what I do. I got really caught up in trying to do too many different things all the time. And that's not just training. That was nutrition. That was cardio. Things like that. I was trying to do too much. And what I ended up doing is not doing anything very well. And I ended up, not practicing what I was preaching. And it came as real simple. I just wasn't doing what I was telling other people to do. I got really heavy. I started to chase heavier numbers on my lifts. I put on a bunch of weight because I was eating like I was competing.
I did not know this.
I'm really good with camera angles. I tend to take pictures that make me look really good. And it's one of those things. I wasn't managing my food, and because I wasn't watching what I was eating, I wasn't paying attention to it. And I had a son. I was eating a lot of what he was eating.
You have a busy life.
Yeah, right. And like he loves Pizza Friday, and I also love Pizza Friday, and like that turned into pizza weekends and things like that. And so I kind of let things get out of control. And I decided last year, I was just like, listen, I have got to get myself back under control. And so I started the one thing I started to do was tracking my protein. The one thing I started to do, nothing else.
Good for you.
If I was getting my protein every day, if I was doing my training sessions every week, try to get my 3 lifts in and then 1 or 2 cardio sessions, and everything started to click. And it's like, like this stuff honestly works. So in the last year, I lost about 25 or 30 pounds.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I'm a big dude.
You are good with camera angles.
But I was big, and luckily I've got a big frame, but like nobody ever tells you that you're putting on weight, right? I was convinced, like, man, like somebody's been driving my t-shirts, like everything's too tight, like everything's uncomfortable. but I've gotten too heavy, so I've lost the weight.
Good for
Strength
you.
wise, I feel better and I look better. I'm doing simpler things. A lot of the stuff that I really liked when I was younger, like your traditional barbell back squat or deadlifting, barbell deadlifting, just don't do anymore. I can do them really, really well, but they make my back ache, they make my knees a little bit wonky, things like that. So I do a lot more of like the things you see on my social media. I do a lot more single leg work. I do a lot more dumbbell work instead of barbell work. And I get the sessions in. But again, the devil's in the dose. I just make sure I can still train heavy. I can still train hard. I just can't do as much of it. So the intensity is fine. I can go hard. I can be strong.
But you need more recovery.
I need more recovery. So I need to be smarter with that. Things with my cardio, I'm not trying to do a lot of HIIT training, high intensity cardio work anymore. I'm doing a lot more of the zone 2. Like,
me too.
Let's go for a walk. Let's go for a half hour, 45-minute bike ride a couple times a week. Take care of that aerobic capacity work, that recovery work. Oh shit, I feel better right now. Definitely. Like, it makes everything else better. I'm moving better. I feel better. I sleep better. I'm not eating as much junk, and my body pays me back for it. So my thought being, I'm 50 right now. There's no reason I can't continue this for the next 20, 25 years.
Definitely.
Right? And things will happen. Life will happen. I know life's going to happen, but I've built up a solid baseline now. The foundation's come up. The ceiling's going to come up with the foundation. If life happens and, I step off a curb and roll an ankle, or one of my big stupid dogs runs into my knee or something like that stuff will happen. Right. But I have a good baseline. I can recover from those things. I can train around the life that happens to me and continue to train and continue to take care of myself in whatever form that may be. And there's no reason I can't continue to do this. And that's the big thing that I stress with everyone. Once they get to a certain age, there's no reason you can't. You have a lot of preconceived notions as to why you can't. Get that fear aside. Set that fear aside. Take the chance. Bet on yourself. Take the step. You're going to be glad that you did, because this is something you can do for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
I mean, are you ever going to get to a point where you don't crawl off a rock, where you're just going to be like, I'm not going to do that anymore?
No, I hope to always do it. And I really look to, I look to older people in their 70s and who are doing those things that I love to do. And that, I guess, to your point, that helps me stay inspired and like it can happen, and
so that's something that I try to remind myself a lot. Like, it's one thing to make your parents proud, but it's something else to inspire your children. Right. So true. And so I'm at a point right now, like, we, at this point, as people who've been training for this long and working out for this long and being aware in this arena for this long, we're looking up. We're going to be kind of that generation that starts to redefine what training in your 50s, 60s, 70s and beyond looks like.
You've talked about this before, and that is so. You talked to me once about that, and that has stuck with me, because
it's a real thing.
Yeah, I think you're spot on.
We are going to revolutionize the culture in this country and probably globally by the fact that we are just not going to stop. Right. Yeah. We want to pick up as many people along the way, like, get on the bus, like, let's go. Right. This is how you do it. And you can do it. And just showing that it can be done and people are doing it, other people will come along. But like, our kids are going to watch what we're doing and be like, oh, this, when they say lifestyle, they don't mean 6 months. They don't, that attention span, like, oh, this is forever. Like, let's do this forever. And it becomes something that's like, it's exciting to be able to do it and be a part of it. I'm incredibly lucky to be able to do what I do.
So cool. I love it. Well, that's probably a great place to wrap it up and give you your time back, because I'm assuming you have to go back to work at some point today.
I'll eventually. This place will just operate without me. I'll get back to it.
I bet it will. So where can people follow you, get in touch with you? If they're in Sioux Falls, they can come check out the gym.
Yeah, if you're in Sioux Falls, we're at Forge Strength. We're on South Minnesota, right by Bagel Boy and Juice Stop. I'm on Facebook. I don't post a lot on my business page anymore just because the algorithm. But you can find me at Matt Dolan on my Facebook page, and then Matt at Forge Strength is my Instagram handle. We put a ton of stuff up on Insta, and you can.
You do. It's awesome.
You can slide into my DMs there anytime. I do a pretty good job of getting back to you. But yeah, let's have a conversation. Like, and that's the whole thing. It all just starts with a conversation. There's nothing to be afraid of. There's nothing that's going to completely blow you away. Like, it's going to be probably a pretty low key conversation. I'm a super mellow dude. And let's just talk about what you can do. It's not what you can't do. Let's figure out what you can do and take a great big breath and let's just go do that thing.
Yeah, it'll make life so much better. I love it. Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Always fun to talk to you. You always have that great energy going, and you're always just very well versed in what you're talking about. It's always
Are we
fun.
Gonna do this again? We should do this again.
Yeah. Do you want to?
100%.
Yeah, of course.
100%.
Yeah,
yes.
for sure. I'd love to do that.
Good.
Yeah, we'll have to think of I have some topics that obviously I could come up with, but I wanted to talk to you about like BFR training and all that sort of more nuanced stuff.
Oh, so, like I'm such a nerd for that stuff. Like,
exactly.
like give me a
so
chance
we
to
could
just
nerd out on some things.
100%. That'd be great.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you.
Well,
Heather.
Thanks again, and we will talk soon.
You will. Bye.
See ya. Hi, everyone. Guess what? I have a lovely discount code just for you, my listeners. The code is 10 off. That's 10OFF, and it will get you 10% off any one of my online courses, which now include Mastering Mindful Eating, Overcome Binge Eating, Overeating, and Emotional Eating for Good. And I also have a course on When You Want to Stop the Weight Loss Medication, a comprehensive guide to weight maintenance and mastery. So if you've maybe lost some weight using a medication and you're now wanting to go off the medication but keep the weight off, this is the course for you. And any course you buy, you keep the course for a minimum of 3 years, maybe longer. It just depends on how many are purchased. All courses are self-paced, and I promise you they are practical, meaning they don't just tell you what you need to do. You actually engage in the skills and strategies needed to make actual lasting behavior change. You learn how to do the what. Okay, all courses have multiple modules with multiple lessons. All include lots of examples, tips, and tricks to make things simple and clear. And you also get lots of downloadable resources, including the daily planning template that I use with my own clients, the exact protocol to use after a binge or an overeat has occurred to minimize its damage on your body and your mind. There are protein cheat sheets, research-based journaling prompts, and the literal how-to checklists on the skill you are learning about. And with the weight maintenance course, you also have a movement module that will help you figure out how to make a movement plan that fits your particular lifestyle and level of fitness. And you also have a natural appetite regulation module. So whether if you have never tried an online course to change behavior, or if you have, I just highly would recommend that you try one of these. I've put my heart and soul into both of them. They are all research-based, and now you can get 10% off. So again, that code is 10OFF. If you're ready to make changes that last, you can go to my website, heatherheynen.com. Heynen is spelled Heynen. And from the main menu, click courses, and it will get you to where you want to go. Or you can click on the links in the episode description below the show. And again, as soon as you're there, when you're ready for checkout, just enter the code 10OFF, 10 off. And just a reminder, I also have an ebook cookbook that is now available. It's called Protein Forward Easy Recipes. It includes all high protein recipes, including breakfast and sweet treats full of protein and lunches and dinner. Okay, so again, head to my website. It's probably the easiest thing to do, heatherheynen.com. Heynen is spelled Heynen. And from there, go to courses or the cookbook. And again, use code 10 off at checkout. Did you know you can find a lot more help from me on my website? Go to heatherheynen.com. Heynen is spelled Heynen, and there you will find links to my online courses, how I work with clients one-on-one, as well as online with my coaching and counseling services that I offer. The information in this podcast is intended to provide a broad understanding and knowledge of healthcare topics. This information is for educational purposes only and should not be considered complete and should not be used in place of advice from your physician or healthcare provider. We recommend you consult your physician or healthcare professional before beginning or altering your personal exercise, diet or supplementation program.